Welcome to this episode. I am going to let you guys in on a little secret. If you don't know this about me, I have totally drank the EFT tapping Kool-Aid. I am an EFT certified practitioner, and as I have incorporated EFT tapping into my client sessions, not only have I seen tremendous shifts in their ability to self-regulate in between sessions, so when that really triggering thing happens, they know how to manage it, but also we're able to go deeper within session because their body is feeling safe. So I have seen this work with my clients. I have seen this work firsthand on myself. As I was going through my certification program, it was more self-work than I think I had intended for. I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, and is super grateful for it. Having this tool really allows you to be with those parts of ourselves, those feelings that we don't want to be with, but that we have to be with in order to heal from. So with this episode, I hope to really reveal the magic of EFT. And I say it's magic. It's definitely not magic. It is evidence-based. So they've done studies where they have hooked up people's brains while they have done tapping and seen the activity shifting. So they have real evidence around how this is impacting the nervous system, how it's impacting the body, the brain, and our ability to heal. So in this episode today, I really want to educate you on what EFT tapping is, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, and not only educate you about it, but show you how to use it. So it's one of the most accessible tools. It's super easy to learn, and I want you to have that information. We're also going to talk about why or how it works to help you find self-love and self-trust, two things that are often lacking when we are coming out of unhealthy relationships, where we are coming out of toxic relationships, narcissistic relationships, whatever type of relationship where you just don't feel quite like yourself anymore. You feel like you have lost your confidence, your worth, and you're not sure how to really start to get that back. And then how EFT can help you have a really beautifully healthy relationship in the future. And be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where we are going to pull an oracle card, which will offer you a specific message that you can use this week to stay conscious, present, really anchor into your healing. Welcome to Heartbreak to Wholeness, the podcast helping you heal from the mindfuck of narcissistic relationships and move towards the secure, peaceful woman you want to become. We will explore all of the tools that you need to get through your grief, to move past those I'll be alone forever fears, and rebuild your confidence so you can move forward in healthy relationships as your full self, never to get sucked into the narcissistic spell again. I am your host, Bree Walta, relationship clarity coach and EFT certified practitioner. Let's dive in. So what is EFT tapping and how do we use it? First of all, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and that's really signifying what it does. It helps us to free our emotions. It helps us to be present with something that feels sucky to feel long enough so that we can move it, integrate it, and understand it. How it works is that we are tapping on different points on our face and our torso and our hands while we are talking through what's present for us. So usually we're using tapping when we're having a distressing feeling. We're having something come up where we feel triggered or agitated or anxious or sad. We're having these feelings that we don't really like to be with. So the beauty here is that tapping gives us this safe container to be able to turn towards these feelings that we have categorized as bad, the anger, the sadness, the betrayal, the anxiety. We don't like to feel those, so we tend to run away from those emotions. But tapping helps us to turn towards it with a really safe container to allow us to explore and to feel and to move. So what happens with these feelings is usually when we're feeling something distressing or triggering, there's a part of our brain called the amygdala that is flashing. So it gets really activated. And the amygdala, if you think about it, is sort of like the security camera of your life. It's constantly scanning the environment for a threat. But in nowadays, those threats can look like somebody gave you a weird look, or you got an email, or you got a text message that you didn't want to get. and it activates the whole system. So we need tools to be able to deactivate the amygdala, to be able to remind the amygdala that we are safe, even though I got this text message that I don't want. I am physically safe, right? There's not a lion running at me. So tapping helps us to deactivate our trigger response. When we're in the amygdala, we only have our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response, which is very limited. So we need to come out of that part of the brain so that we can open access to the emotional parts of the brain and the rational parts of the brain to be able to integrate and make understanding about that feeling. If you've ever been like incredibly triggered and you're just like, I want to figure this out right now. I want to make this decision right now. And you feel like your brain is like spazzing and short circuiting and you're like, I just can't think. I can't think straight. That's not you being crazy. That's not something abnormal. That's literally your brain sending all of its capacity to your amygdala so that you can get away from the threat. If a lion is running at you, you're not going to stop and think about how you'd feel about the lion running at you. You're going to just get away. So we have to come out of the survival place first. We have to regulate first and then try to make sense of and try to make meaning around our experiences. A lot of the times we're trying to skip over that regulation part. And then when we can't make sense of things, the judgment, the criticism, the frustration escalates even further. And then we just get into this loop. So I'll talk you through the points so that you have an understanding of what I mean when I say we're tapping. There are 9 points in the sequence. The sequence is called a recipe. That's not really important for your use of it, but we'll go over the 9 points here. So the first point is on the side of your hand. This is right underneath your pinky. There's a fleshy part. This is also called the karate chop point. So that makes sense if you're trying to chop a board, right? It's using your other hand to tap on that side, that long side right underneath your pinky. Most of these points are bilateral, so you can switch hands. You can use 2 hands for some of them. This one, obviously, you can only use one hand at a time. You can only tap one hand at a time because you're using both hands. So the side of the hand is the first point. Then we come up to the eyebrow. This is right where your hair starts. So you want to start on the inside of your nose, right where your hair starts on your eyebrow. And then we come to the side of the eye. This is where your temple is, so directly behind your occipital bone. And then we come under the eye. This is not on your cheek. Your cheek is lower. So we want to bring you up closer to your eye, your eyeball. You'll feel a bone there, and that's where this point is. And then we come to the first unilateral point, which means you wouldn't use 2 hands here because you'll miss the point directly under your nose. But under the nose is this point. So sometimes we call this the mustache point. And then we come to the chin, the crease right underneath your bottom lip, which is also a unilateral point. And then the collarbones. So this is just right underneath your actual collarbone. You'll feel kind of a squishy area there. And then we come under the arm. This, for women, is where our bra line is. For men, it's in line with the nipple. It's also kind of the natural place that your arms will land if you lift them up like you're a monkey and try to tap on the side of your body. You can also take one hand and cross over to the other side to tap if you don't want to feel so much like a monkey. And then the top of the head is the last point, which is also a unilateral point. So that is the sequence. We're just using some gentle tapping. Typically, we use 2 fingers to tap on the point. Some people use 1 finger. It's really an intuitive process, so you do what feels good on your body. If you like the feeling of having the stimulation on both sides as you're tapping through your eyebrow, the side of your eye, under your eye, the points that have the bilateral capacity, do that. If you like it, which is 1 hand, do that. If you like to switch hands, do that. There's not a lot of hard and fast rules with tapping. But you'll get familiar with that sequence, and it will become very second nature to use that sequence the more that you practice it. So how do we use this? How do we use the points? How do we use what we're feeling to actually calm the system? I'm going to give you an example because I learn best through examples. So let's say that I am in a relationship and I am feeling really burnt out with doing the cooking every night, all week. And I want to ask my partner for help, but I'm feeling really anxious. I'm feeling super anxious about asking him to help me with the cooking next week. So with tapping, what we want to do is identify what is present. So that looks like identifying our feeling, in this case, anxiety, and identifying a sensation in the body that arises when you think about having to do this thing. So in the case of this example, if I was feeling really anxious about asking my partner to help me, perhaps when I'm thinking about that, I get a lump in my throat. I get this feels like I'm just trying to swallow sludge and I have this huge thing that's blocking my throat. So I want to identify what that feels like. Okay, lump in my throat. On a scale of 1 to 10, the intensity of the lump in my throat is about a 7. And that's really subjective. So my 7 might be your 2, it might be your 10. It doesn't matter. We're just going to use that number to track how the sensation is moving as we're going through the tapping. So identifying what's present, I have anxiety and I have a lump in my throat. So what we're going to do with tapping is we are going to express that verbally. We're just going to say what is present as we are tapping through the points. So as we say what's present, we're making a lot of space to feel that feeling instead of coming at this like, I shouldn't be scared. I shouldn't be feeling anxiety. I should be able to do this, right? We're not shooting all over ourselves with this. So we're just going to name what's present. Starting with the side of the hand, if you are not driving or taking care of kiddos or cooking and you have both hands available, I really encourage you to tap along with me to just get a feel for how this feels. You can say the words out loud, and we're just going to move through the points. So with the side of the hand, there's a little bit of a different setup that we use where we name 3 times what we're feeling, and then that we know we're safe to be with the feeling, or we're choosing to be with the feeling. So I'll walk you through what this looks like. Even though I'm feeling anxiety about asking my partner to help with the cooking, I know that I'm safe to be with this feeling. And we'll repeat that 2 more times. Even though I'm feeling anxiety about asking my partner to help me with the cooking, and I have this lump in my throat, I know that I'm safe to be with this feeling. Even though I'm so anxious and I have this lump in my throat and I don't want to ask my partner for help, I know that I'm safe to be with this feeling. So you're repeating that 3 times while you're tapping on the side of the hand. And then we come up to the eyebrow, and we're just going to move through the remainder of the points by expressing what is present. Okay? Tapping on the eyebrow, this anxiety that I'm feeling, side of the eye. I have this huge lump in my throat, under the eye. I'm so anxious about thinking about asking him for help, under the nose. So much anxiety when I think about asking for help. Chin, this lump in my throat. Collarbones. I don't want to ask him. I'm scared about how he will react. Under the arm. All of this anxiety that I'm feeling. Top of the head, and this huge lump in my throat. And then you're going to bring your hand to your chest. You're going to close your eyes for a second. You're going to take a deep breath. You're going to check in. Where is that anxiety? Where is that lump in my throat? We want to identify the sensation. Did that sensation go up or down? So I was at a 7. Let's say now I'm at about a 5. Cool. So I can move through that round again. If the sensation went up, I would do the same thing. I would move through that round again. Again, just stating what is present in the most simplest terms. If the sensation moved, let's say that now I'm feeling some sadness and it's tightness in my chest, then I would do a round setting those specific feelings up. So even though I'm feeling sadness and I have this tightness in my chest, I know I'm safe to be with this feeling. And you just keep following the feeling. The goal here is not to get rid of what we're feeling. The goal is to regulate the system to a point where you can start asking some curious questions. So this leads me into the second point about how EFT can help you really find that self-love and that self-trust. What we're doing is we're bringing the space to the feeling, okay? I'm bringing space to the anxiety that I'm feeling around having to ask my partner for help with cooking. Instead of distracting, instead of running away, instead of working harder, I'm sitting with it. I'm sitting in this uncomfortable anxiety. When I have sat with it and I have done a couple rounds of tapping, then there will be a natural point where you can ask yourself, why do I feel so anxious about asking for help? Where is this coming from? And you're asking yourself that as you're tapping. That can be one of the things that you say on one of the specific points. Why am I so anxious about asking for help? And allowing an answer to come. Oh, because when I was young, I took on a lot of the responsibility. And I did that because I wanted to lower the overwhelm or the chaos that was happening in the house. So, oh my gosh, that makes sense that a part of me is really used to taking on a lot and not asking for help because it wasn't really safe to ask for help. So I'm finding some compassion for that part of me, that younger self, that inner little girl of mine that is legitimately freaked out about asking for help, right? Based on very real experiences that she had when she was young. This is hard for her. And in this example, I can see that. I can see this little girl as being anxious about asking for help because she doesn't want to overwhelm the unit. She doesn't want to cause more distress. She doesn't want to feel unsafe because of that. Now, as your adult self, we want to remind the younger self that we're no longer in that dynamic. Sometimes our younger parts don't know that. So we have to have compassion towards that younger part to first hear them out, right? I want to hear about the anxiety. I want to hear how scared you are. Tell me about this lump in your throat. And then to soothe them, to turn towards them, to tend to them. It's not trying to dismiss the feeling. It's not trying to diminish the feeling. It's saying, oh, honey, to yourself, oh my gosh, this makes total sense why I'm feeling this. And I know that I'm not in my childhood anymore. I know that my partner wants to be helpful. I know that my partner wants me to ask for my needs, right? This is assuming you're in a healthy relationship. And I feel okay to do that. I'm going to do that, even though I feel afraid. And it's reparenting that part of you that's really afraid. So this creates trust. When we can turn towards the part of us who's having a feeling and say, I understand why you're feeling this. I hear you. I'm here for you now to help you through this. Even though you're scared, we're going to do this together. I'm going to hold your hand. This is exactly what it's going to look like. We parent our parts like you would parent a young child. And the more that we can do this every time that anxiety comes up, the more trust we're going to build with ourselves. And that relationship is such an important relationship to put a priority on, because if we don't have trust with ourselves, we are going to have a hard time trusting other people. If we are not choosing ourselves and making time for ourselves, we're going to have a hard time finding people who have the capacity to choose and love us as well. So this is, in my opinion, like the foundation of being able to be in a healthy relationship, which leads me into the next point. So EFT tapping will help you show up more healthfully in relationships. If your goal is to do your work, to be the best that you can be, to become the woman that is in integrity, that walks her talk, right, can show up in relationships and change her patterns, then EFT can help you do this. In a healthy relationship, it takes two people with the ability to first regulate their own nervous system, have the awareness that they need to regulate their system, and then regulate their system, and then, therefore, be able to co-regulate. So in partnership, we're affected by people's energy all day, every day, whether we know it or not. But our partner is somebody that we are spending the majority of the time with. And we are picking up on their energetic signals, on their distress, on their excitement. We can feel things, often without them saying anything. We can pick up on a facial expression or body language. We're reading people all of the time. So having the awareness around how the nervous system works and how your partner's nervous system works will help you be able to co-regulate when one of you is dysregulated. So when one of you is in a triggered part, the other person can come in and offer some safety via their body language, via the sweet things that they are saying to help the other person regulate. We need that understanding of what's happening with our nervous system. And you'll get that. The more that you practice EFT tapping, the more you'll understand when you're triggered, what it feels like, what happens in your body, and you'll be able to articulate that for yourself, first and foremost, and then to your partner. We want to move away from something happening and me reacting about it and then causing a consequence because of that, to something happening, taking space, regulating, understanding, getting curious, getting compassionate, and then being able to revisit whatever happened with a calm understanding and more of my rational brain online. This helps you be able to communicate. So instead of going to your partner and saying, you did this, you made me feel this way, and causing more of a defensive fight around that thing, you can come to your partner and say, hey, when this happened, this is what came up for me, and this is what I need. So another part of healthy relationships is being able to identify what you actually need from the person so that we're not passive aggressively like beating around the bush of, I really need my partner to help me with the cooking this week. But what I'm going to do instead is just guilt trip him, but he's not really picking up on that, which is just making me feel worse and also not getting my need met of having help with the cooking this week. Okay? Being clear, being articulate, and being able to communicate is how we have healthy relationships. Our partner's not a mind reader. We are not reading their mind as much as we think we can sometimes. Both people need to have that communication skill. But to go back to point one, it's very hard to communicate when you are activated. We don't have that part of our brain online. So we have to self-regulate. We have to tend to the nervous system first, always first, and then make sense of what we're feeling, identify what we need, and then communicate from there. I promise you, when you experience doing this with somebody who is healthy in a healthy relationship, it transforms any conversation that could potentially turn into a fight, quote unquote, into a space for vulnerable conversation. That doesn't mean that you'll agree all the time. That doesn't mean that it won't feel hard to have those conversations, but it will feel like you are met because you are explaining more of what is happening in your internal space based on all of your past and your wounds and all the things. You're coming to the issue with vulnerability and not defensiveness, not being accusatory. So it's massively helpful in healthy relationships. And to create that healthy relationship with yourself first. So now you know what EFT tapping is and you know how to use it. So remember that you have that example from the beginning of the episode that you can go back to as a reminder of how to set yourself up to do some tapping. You can insert your own emotion, your own physical sensation, and you can use that to move through the points as you're kind of getting a hang of what you're doing. You also know the power that you hold literally at your fingertips to be able to find curiosity, self-love, and trust with yourself, which I know are three of the most important things that I hear from my clients all of the time of how do I build these skills? How do I actually tend to my inner child? What does that even mean? Now you have a tool to be able to do that. And you know why being able to self-regulate is so important in healthy relationships and how this will benefit not only you as an individual, but will benefit your coupledom when you have a coupledom in your next relationship. These are such vital, vital skills. I cannot stress that enough. You will feel so empowered. You will have so much agency over what you're feeling and your ability to communicate that you won't even recognize yourself. At least that's what happened in my case. After I started really incorporating tapping into my day-to-day, every time I felt triggered about something, and got really used to that space, that container that I was creating for myself, so many dots started connecting for me around why I would react in situations where I shouldn't, quote unquote, be reacting as intensely. So much compassion and so much healing. And now I have an understanding about these parts. So every time that part comes up, I'm like, oh, hey, girl, I know what you need. If you need anything else, I'm here to listen, but you're familiar to me now. And we've built a relationship. And that is how we heal. That is the healing, to be able to tend to ourselves over and over and over and really build that solid relationship with our parts first, with all of these wounded inner parts of us that are there for a reason. Everything makes so much sense of why we're reacting in the way we're reacting when we can look at it with compassion and curiosity. So at the end of these episodes, I always pull an oracle card for you. So I'm just going to start shuffling and see which of the cards, there it is, which of the cards want to come out. Today we got the guides. If you're not watching the video, it is a picture of a lot of signs, it looks like. So I'm going to find where this is in the book. The guides say, you are not alone. You are surrounded by the guides, angels, friends, supporters, and champions. All you need to do is open the door of your heart, ask for help, whisper your prayer, and they will appear. Not because they have to, but because they want to. They are simply waiting for the invitation. Asking for support, help, or guidance is the key that unlocks the door to manifestation. If you are feeling alone and disheartened, know that this card signals it is time to reach out, to be vulnerable, to ask for what you need and desire. Your guides are standing at the ready. Allow yourself to fall into their collective embrace and notice synchronicities start to show up. I love that message. A reminder that we are not only there for ourselves, but that we have so much support, be it in this world or beyond, of energies that are here to guide us, to support us, to continue to move us towards becoming our highest self and becoming the woman that you want to be in relationships. If this episode really landed for you and you want to learn a little bit more about EFT and how to use it, episode 6 will be a good one for you. So way back, it's called How to Set Boundaries That Work and Communicate Effectively Without Feeling Guilty. And it talks more about EFT, how to use it in those specific ways to set boundaries, communicate, be with the guilt that can come up. Again, more skills that we need in healthy relationships. I so hope this was helpful for you. Please always reach out. I am here for any feedback, how this landed for you, questions. And until next time.